The Jets are like the mafia. It's like being a Jet fan is like a mafia. As soon as you thought you're out, it pulls you back in. And here we are.
Familiarity with the system there.
What was that? What was that word again?
Yours getting me,
First Miller Lite, bro?
Jets.
Yeah, everybody beat the fucking Jets that year.
That was their first win in like forever.
Yeah, they gave out free beer to the entire city because fucking Baker Mayfield beat the Jets.
Yeah.
Go ahead and break the ice. Fuck me, bro. If you don't want to show up, fuck me.
My God, you should have seen my story, bro. I
watched it, man.
I was going nuts. I wanted Thibodeau or sauce, and when he said he didn't even say Ahmad Gardner. He said Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
I went nuts.
Gonna text Dennis like getting kicked out of the game.
Sounds about right.
I'm with security or something. This is ridiculous. They're throwing me out for farting on the face.
What?
And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, the guy behind me says I keep farting on him. And they were like kicking him out, but it was Bandoni that was ripping ass.
Nick was farting, and I got kicked out of the game for it.
Dennis got kicked out. They brought him to the jail.
You went to the Jets jail, bro?
All right, episode 11, game week.
Lucky 11.
Game week, baby. Jets, Ravens, Sunday, MetLife. Football's here. Our first episode leading up to an actual game. We've had all this preseason bullshit, all the training camp stuff, all the draft, the free agency coverage when we launched as a pod. This is our first game week pod. It's exciting. It feels like it's like the holiday season. You start listening to Christmas music. You get a little bit more jolly, little pep in the step when you wake up, and as it feels like as each day gets closer to Sunday, you get a little bit more antsy for that game to get here. But good episode here for you tonight. Obviously, there's a lot of storylines surrounding the Jets heading into this opening matchup with Baltimore. We're going to have a special guest here for you as well. Our first guest of the pod, which I think is just going to be an underlying theme that you're going to be seeing here coming up. We're going to have plenty of guests here the next couple of weeks. One very special one that we'll tell you about before we wrap here. But we're lucky enough to have Kevin Oestreicher on with us here tonight from the Locked On Ravens pod. He's got you locked and loaded on everything going on with the Ravens from that angle. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about what Baltimore looks like heading into this matchup, maybe some areas that the Jets could exploit and possibly pull out a win. I think they're, what did I see today, 6.5 point dogs. At least now 6.5 point home dogs, which is woof.
That's like a 9. That's like a 9 point real differential.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk to Kevin, get you covered on that Ravens angle. Not to kind of turn this into a Ravens podcast, but I think it's good to kind of educate you guys on what the opponent is looking like. And as we've been saying, we're going to try and do that all year. I already have somebody locked in from the Browns perspective that's going to come on next week. So each week we're just going to try to bring, instead of ranting and raving and beating all these Jets storylines to death that we all know about, we all have an opinion about. I think it's just good to know a little bit about what the opponent looks like and what they're thinking head to, and not just from maybe a writer's perspective, but from a fan's perspective as well. So stay tuned for that. We'll have that interview here for you shortly. But Spiga, I think game week, tomorrow's Wednesday as we record this. This pod's going to drop tomorrow, and by then we should know. But obviously Zach Wilson goes down in that preseason opener, hasn't seen any live action since, not even in practice. But we're supposed to get the announcement tomorrow from Coach Saleh as to who's going to be under center come 1:00 Sunday. Gun to head, who's starting Sunday?
Gun to head. Him going through a full workout today and them not saying full blown no, he's not starting. I don't want to say concerns me because I don't want to make it seem like I don't want Zach Wilson to start. I know he's going to come with rust. He's had one series of football, live series all preseason,
and it was
and then
awful.
Went right to the bench with an injury, and it was an awful one. And then a really bad pick, pick 6, and then now you're going to throw him right into the fire. Even especially now, I mean, you're gonna know 4 or 5 days before the season starts. If the Jets are smart, just play Joe Flacco. Just play Joe Flacco. I think he gives us a better chance to win Sunday. not in general, not over the course of the season. He's not the better quarterback. I'm not saying that. I think he just gives us the best chance to win Sunday. Zach probably will be up to speed. Doesn't have to learn a new playbook, nothing like that. But it's like he's going to have to shake some rust off. Why force it? This is game one, and it's a pretty lofty game one. The Ravens are no slouch. It's not like you're playing a slapdick Appalachian State. You're playing a really good defense. You know what I mean? You're playing a really good team. Stick with what you've been doing for the past 2 months. Flacco looked good in the last preseason game. He's building good rapport with everybody. Let him hold down the fort. You brought him in for this exact reason. Let him hold down the fort. Let him see, nice little storyline, coming back. He's, Ravens royalty to them. So it'll be a nice game, nice storylines around it. Just let Joe Flacco win. I think he gives us the best chance to win on Sunday. Hopefully get another full week of practice, and then you go ahead and unload Zach Wilson against the Browns. That's what I think.
I agree in the sense that I agree. I think Flacco gives them the better chance to win this particular game. But I do think if you're being realistic about where the Jets are as a program, and obviously they're going through a rebuild, and you hope this is step 2 or 3, wherever the hell you want to say they're at in the rebuild. Yeah. This is not the initial step, but I think Coach Saleh said it today. Like, if he's ready, they know there's going to be rust, but like, you almost have to rip the Band-Aid off and live with what's still lingering. And if he's cleared to play and the doctors say that he's ready to play, and he comes in tomorrow and he feels good after 2 days of workouts, and the doctors say he's good to go, he's going to go. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
Listen, the doctor said Mekhi Becton was good to go back into practice, and his fucking knee exploded. So we'll pump the brakes on that one. But I mean, I don't know. You're right. I think it's almost like you want to just rip the Band-Aid off. It's what you should do. He's your future. Joe Flacco's not. We want to see what you got. But again, the other side of my brain also says it's week 1 in a long season, especially in a rough stretch. So, and it's not like the Ravens are coming in full strength either. They've got their own storylines. Who knows what Lamar Jackson feels like about his contract? Who knows if J.K. Dobbins, your workhorse, is playing? They got no real true number 1 receiver anymore. So it's like there's conflicting storylines on both sides. It'll be a really nice game, and I think it's going to be great to get to see everybody again. And we're all going to be getting together in MetLife and partying it up. But I don't know. I just don't want to see him rush back and then either A, get hurt again, hurt the same leg again, or just look awful, and then confidence gets shot back down. I don't know. One extra week to me doesn't seem like the end of the world. But,
Yeah. To another point too, like, I'm just fucking tired of losing. especially opening day. Like, you're in the parking lot 8:00 in the morning as fans, and then you're
months.
Yeah, it's like Christmas Day. You like wake up and the presents are under the tree. That's what it's like rolling into MetLife that first game. And I remember last year, like, walking into the stadium right for 1:00. They tell you to get into your seats an hour before the game. Nobody does that. And so I'm going up the escalator. I think it's 1:05. I'm not even in my seat yet. And you could just hear the fans in their seats already reacting to the opposition scoring. And they haven't even touched the ball yet. And the game is already, they're already down a touchdown before you even get in your seat. And it just feels like that's, and it just feels like that's the story every year. And I'm just, it goes beyond just like being tired of losing on opening week. I'm just tired of losing in general. And if Flacco comes in there and he plays well and he wins 2 or 3 games, then like, fuck it. Who cares? Like,
I want to win, period. You're right.
I understand. Like, this is all about Zach Wilson. This whole thing is about Zach Wilson. If Zach Wilson's bad, this franchise is going nowhere. We know that. But at some point too, like, we can't continue to see losing while this kid learns on the fly either. Like, we want to see wins as well. So there has to be some kind of balance of like the kid coming in there playing well and winning, or the kid not playing if he's not healthy, and letting somebody that's capable of winning the game actually get in there and play. So I think if there's any doubt that Wilson isn't healthy and 100%, even if they keep saying 100%, if it's 99% and there's just an inkling that he's not fully back to where he needs to be, I'm going with Flacco. And if he fucking wins, he wins. And then play him week 2.
Yeah, you have
and
to.
If he wins, like, I get it. Like, Wilson's going to have his time, but that's where I'm saying there's like a happy medium to like winning and developing and moving the program along the way that they want it to. And
Yeah.
Wilson not playing hinders that program moving forward. There's no question about that. But at some point, you want to win games, I would think, too, especially this franchise. They haven't played a playoff game since 2010. It's now 2000.
Everyone's hungry for it. Yep.
I had
you're
my
right.
driver's license for like 3 years the last time they played a playoff game. Like, it's just absurd how
It's
long
true,
it's been.
man.
I'm like now an adult married with a family, and as long as I'm going on 9 years now, being together with my now wife. She's never seen the Jets in the like they've never played a playoff game since we've been together. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like I've known her forever. It's just like that's how long. Like, there's been like 3 presidents since the Jets have like. It's just crazy how much the world has changed since the
And you
last
know
time
what?
the Jets made the playoffs.
And to be honest, for the first time, and I think we've talked about this on a couple pods prior, for the first time, I almost feel confident they will make the right decision. Like, I feel like, back in the day, whether it was like, you had Tannenbaum leading the charge, we had John Idzik or, Adam Gase, you never felt confident what they're going to do. It's like, oh, they'll fuck it up. I feel like they've shown and they've proven it time and time again that they will do what's best for the team in the long run, as well as kind of keeping the win in the now phase, somewhat in their mind. I trust Saleh he's got the eyes, he's there. Same thing with Joe Douglas. We're not. We can make assumptions. We could say, if he's 99.9%, sit him. Bro, he might come out and say, hey, listen, I was able to take the last 3 weeks and sit, even from a practice get-go and practice standpoint, take a step back, take a breather. I'm ready to rock. Let's go. He might come out and light it up. We don't know. It's just, I trust their eyeballs. I trust their eye test. Whatever they decide, whether they come out tomorrow and say, you know what, he looked good, he's starting, and he has a couple of days of practice, or they come out and say, you know what, he looks good, but we're going to push it one more week. We go with Flacco. I trust it. I think that they have the team's best interest in heart, and I think overall they've earned the right for me to trust their decision making at this present time, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think another kind of fun layer just to like watch out of this whole situation is the Joe Flacco, Baltimore, the whole going back to
coming home,
going back to like a decade ago. Is he an elite quarterback winning the Super Bowl in a franchise or a franchise in a contract year, and getting paid a very handsome contract, very similar to the quarterback now that they have, Lamar Jackson. Obviously, that situation is kind of the big black cloud hanging over the Ravens franchises. If they're going to get that contract extension with Lamar, you hope maybe it does affect them. Maybe it is a distraction.
What's your gut? You think they pay him yet? You think there's an offer on the table? You think he takes one, or you think he says, "Fuck it, let's take the season and ride," and then whatever happens.
I don't know. It's going to be a good question for Kevin here in a second, but I don't know. Like, I think one of two ways. Like, it could go either way because I think like deadlines do put pressure on people. And if there is a deadline, like maybe it puts pressure on Baltimore to get a deal done. But also they've had over a year now to get it done. And why would you think that within the next, 72 to 96 hours that they're going to get that done?
What would change, yeah.
Especially the amount of risk and money and commitment involved. It's not like we're talking about giving like Quinn and Williams like a contract. Like, you're talking about giving like a 250 to 300. Yeah, you're talking about giving like a record contract, probably the biggest contract that this franchise is ever going to give out to date, at least while we're recording this podcast. That money's never been given out by Baltimore to anybody. Very few people in the history of the league have gotten the money that Lamar's apparently looking for. And he's looking for a lot of guaranteed money because Cleveland got reckless and they gave Deshaun Watson that deal. But he's also seeing all these other guys get paid. Russell Wilson, who's probably past his prime now, is getting crazy money. And Kyler Murray, who has really done nothing. He's played well in spurts in the regular season, but hasn't had any kind of playoff success. And he's getting paid and he's getting locked in before he has to get paid.
And it's always been that way, though, with the NFL. It's always been who's up next is going to get crazy money. It's like, even if you're good, bad, and indifferent, like Jimmy Garoppolo didn't do anything. At one point, didn't he only have like 7 wins under his belt and still signed a large extension? Yeah. It's literally all about the timing and who comes up next. And to Lamar's point, he is next in line and he's got an MVP accolade under him. and he's a Pro Bowler, and he's, granted, he might not have the playoff wins that you'd like him to have, or, the team doesn't have the accolades that it does. Him as a player, he's a playmaker. He's an athlete. He's crazy talented. And I think he's a little bit more deserving of the money than Deshaun Watson is. And then, it's as much as Browns made a reckless deal. Yeah, you're right. It's not his fault.
Right.
The Jags made a reckless decision by giving Christian Kirk $700 million.
Yeah.
But then look at every receiver who was up for money after. Said, that ain't my problem. I'm better than that dude is. Look at the money he's got. Money talks. Yeah. And that's just how it works in the NFL. So, should he get paid? Yes. Should anybody get paid that amount of money? No. Without Super Bowl wins. Because, again, you don't want to hamstring your team. Look at Tom Brady. He takes like a $1-2 million salary because then he can build around him.
Right.
You're going to give $50-60 million a year to a quarterback. Who can you sign for the rest of that? You can only have one additional, stud player. Then everyone else is all like gap fillers.
Right.
The catch-22, man.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and I'm kind of hoping it doesn't happen, and perhaps there's some type of distraction, or there's a lot of talking, and maybe all the players are getting asked about it leading into the game, and it kind of throws them off their game a little. Any kind of edge the Jets could get going into this game, I'm for it. But yeah. I guess we'll find out a little bit more about that. We're gonna hear in a second. Welcome on Kevin Oestreicher, like I said earlier, from the Locked On Ravens pod. So without further ado, here's our interview here with Kevin to perhaps provide some clarity on that Lamar situation and all the other headlines surrounding Baltimore heading into this week 1 matchup. All right, and we're pleased to be joined by actually our first special guest on the pod. We're lucky enough to have Kevin Oestreicher join us tonight. He's the producer and host of the Locked On Ravens pod. Figure no better time to have him than with our matchup with the Ravens coming up here on Sunday at MetLife. Kevin, thanks for joining us and taking the time, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to be talking. It's exciting. Football's back, and that's all that matters here.
Yeah, that's exciting times for sure. What's the tone of the Raven fan base? Maybe not even just going into this game, but going into your season, a little bit of a disappointing year last year. The Jets are obviously riding a streak of over decades long of disappointing years. So it's a kind of an unfamiliar thing for the Ravens. Just what's the tone of the fan base right now, and the optimism level heading into this game and the season in general?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are excited. You mentioned that the team went through so many injuries last year, and it really felt like a lost year for them after so much hype coming into 2021. You lose J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and Marcus Peters all before the year even starts. And then you lose Ronnie Stanley after one game. Lamar Jackson goes down. So it's just, this litany of injuries, but they're hopefully going to get those guys back. Who knows how full strength they'll be. And even if they'll play in week 1, but hopefully by the end of the season, all those guys will be back. But they made additions this year. They brought in Marcus Williams, a safety out from New Orleans, who 5 years, $70 million. That's a big investment in a safety. Also look at Morgan Moses, former Jet, who came over to now start at the right tackle position. And he also, the draft for them, Kyle Hamilton, Tyler Linderbaum, they trade Marquise Brown, but people are excited. I think they really feel like this could be a special year for them. The Ravens really, they're motivated. You can tell after the Ravens lost in week 18 against Pittsburgh, Chuck Clark, their safety, got up on the podium and didn't say anything. He just said, watch how we bounce back, and then left. He didn't answer any questions. He was mad. The whole team was mad that they weren't able to achieve their goals. Lamar Jackson is so focused on winning. They feed off of that energy. So I think that the tone of the fan base kind of feeds off that too. And I think everybody believes that this year can be special.
Now, going into this game, I know that if you're not too familiar with the history and just the fan speak of the Jets, it's always same old Jets. You walk in, you expect to be kind of blown out before the first quarter ends. Do you feel like the Ravens maybe kind of look at that walking in here? Obviously, this is a new Jets team, and there's a lot of excitement for Jets fans, just with a lot of new rookies, second year of Zach Wilson. There is some optimism there that we could actually pull this off and win this game. But do you think the Ravens and maybe the fans in general kind of look at this as like a team that they should go in there and steamroll on in week 1?
I think the general opinion of the fan base is they should win the game. Now, I think a lot of people are more hung up on the Joe Flacco storyline than going in there. There's actually a debate going on about, well, if Joe Flacco plays well and the Ravens win, like, will that make you happy? And some people say, oh, yeah, like Joe Flacco can throw for 505 touchdowns. The Ravens can win. It'll be awesome. But some people are like, no, we have to, for the 1 week, he's not elite. So it goes both ways. But yeah, I think my personal opinion is, look, this league is any given Sunday. The Jets are a team that obviously have made some pretty significant additions themselves. And look, they have some former Ravens storylines there. I mentioned Flacco, CJ Mosley. There are a couple others as well you could look at. So I think that, look, the Ravens have beaten teams they're not supposed to beat. They've also lost the teams they're supposed to blow out. Now, the one thing I will say is before last year, so the Raiders game I'm throwing out from last year, I can't remember the exact number, but the Ravens over their last 3 week ones from 2018 to 2020 outscored their opponents, I believe, in the ballpark of 142-17 or something, just some unbelievable margin. So maybe they get back to those week 1 Ravens. And if that is the case, that's where I would say maybe the Jets are in trouble.
Sure. And that's kind of the situation that everybody here is watching is the quarterback situation. Obviously, we're supposed to find out tomorrow who's going to be under center. Zach Wilson has worked out for a second consecutive day. They say tomorrow, if he feels 100%, he's cleared medically, he's going to get the start. You guys are in a similar predicament with J.K. Dobbins, obviously a key player in that offense and a kind of a up in the air as to his status for this coming Sunday. Just how important do you think he is to that offense? And if he's not in there on Sunday, what does their depth look like this year after kind of having the same issues last year? Like you kind of alluded to, Gus Edwards and Dobbins go down almost immediately last year, and you're just kind of left with like the 2017 Pro Bowl cast, if you will. But just how prepared do you think they are to deal with that Dobbins injury if he is out?
I think they're a lot better prepared this year. You talked about, yeah, if we were talking like 2015, that'd be an all-pro team with, Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, and obviously Devonta Freeman in there too. The difference between this year and last year, though, is last year they lost J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, I believe, around like 10 days before the season started. They had barely any time to get guys in the building, get them caught up to speed. They had a game literally like 5 days away. And also there were some mesh point things they had to figure out with Lamar Jackson. This year, they brought in Mike Davis as a veteran option. They have Justice Hill, who was one of those backs who got injured. He's now back in the fold. They also brought in Kenyon Drake, who's kind of like in the same boat of being brought in a little bit late, having to get caught up to speed. But I think still he's probably at this stage of his career better than any of the 3 the Ravens brought in last year, just because of his explosiveness and what he can do in the receiving game. So I think Dobbins is pretty up in the air right now. I think I take an example from the Raiders game last year when Ronnie Stanley tried to push it on the ankle. It clearly wasn't ready yet. And his play didn't help the Ravens on the field. He got beat a lot by those Raiders pass rushers, Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue when he was still there. And it also didn't help Ronnie Stanley. He opted for the second ankle surgery. So they want to be cautious with their guys. If J.K. Dobbins isn't in there this weekend against the Jets, I don't think it's the end of the world necessarily. I mean, he's their best running back when healthy, but the key words there is when healthy. You don't want to put him in there at 50%. He's not feeling right. Something happens. I mean, they've taken that, I said, cautious approach, and I think they'll stick to it. But if he does play, I'd expect him to maybe get, 40% of the snaps and then really ease him back into action.
What's your gut feeling? Do you think Dobbins plays or no?
I think he plays, and I think Marcus Peters plays. I don't think Ronnie Stanley plays. Those are my gut feelings. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to say I am, but I think those are my gut feelings.
So selfishly, because I have Dobbins in 2 of my fantasy leagues, I should not put him in the starting lineup, you're saying?
If you have to lock it in before Sunday, I don't know. It depends what your depth is. I mean, I'm a big fantasy guy myself. I don't have him. I do a ton of Ravens leagues, so he gets snatched up like in the 4th round. Lamar's like the first pick in every draft. So I think you look at from a fantasy perspective, he's going to be a guy I think that pays off so late in the year. Like he's going to be really, really, really good. And a dynasty hold too. I mean, unbelievable. It's funny because when you were talking about the Flacco days, there was barely anyone you wanted on the Ravens of fantasy. There was no one on that roster except for the defense and Justin Tucker. Now it's Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews and Dobbins and Rashad. So they have all these guys now. It's a really funny switch up that they have there.
Yeah, we're climbing out of that basement now. We're trying to get fantasy guys from the Jets. It's slow and steady, but we're getting there. A quick question for you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Spiga.
No, because I'm curious because, talking to a Ravens fan, I'm actually curious to see what your thought is on this. Obviously, we know Zach Wilson. We're not sure if he's going to play or not. We're not sure what Joe Flacco is. We haven't seen him in live action, since last year, but nothing in meaningful games. who do you feel more confident playing against? A young, up and coming Zach Wilson, where you're not really sure what he is, and again, off of injury, or Joe Flacco, pretty much Ravens royalty, but an aging Joe Flacco? Who would you rather play against on Sunday?
Yeah, this is one of my spicy takes, I think. I think the Ravens have a better shot against Zach Wilson. I think when you're looking at what the Ravens have done historically, and I say this with a grain of salt because their defense is a little different now with Don Martindale now in New York with the Giants and Mike McDonald coming as the new defensive coordinator. The Ravens historically, over the past couple of seasons, the first time young quarterbacks play the Ravens defense. So the first time Joe Burrow played the Ravens defense, he arguably had the worst game of his career. Justin Herbert last year was in the MVP conversation before the Ravens game, still had a great year after the game, but he struggled immensely against the Ravens. For Zach Wilson, the way that the Ravens are able to just provide multiple fronts, they're able to confuse young quarterbacks at the line. Joe Flacco is an experienced veteran. I'm not saying that Flacco is the better quarterback, but I think that in terms of what the Ravens defense brings for a young quarterback like a Zach Wilson, who hasn't necessarily seen something necessarily maybe as exotic as the Ravens defense is. And again, we have to see what the differences are in a full game setting between Don Martindale and Mike McDonald. I think at this point, especially with Wilson maybe coming off the injury and just seeing what he has just in that week 1 game against, I think, a talented defense that is getting Marlon Humphrey back now. They've added, again, a plethora of safeties. They are deep on the defensive line. I think that Joe Flacco would be able to identify that a bit easier, but at the same time, you can't count out Zach Wilson and his arm strength and also just the way that he's able to play the game. But I think that if I had to choose one about who I'm more confident in the Ravens playing week 1, I give the edge to Zach Wilson in the Ravens there.
I'm on that train as well. I said I think the Jets have a better chance to win, and like you said, you're not taking away. Maybe Zach Wilson does become the franchise quarterback that the Jets hope he eventually evolves into, but I don't think he's at that point right now, especially coming off a camp and a preseason where he's had almost no work, no snaps, no live action. I think Joe Flacco gives them the better chance to win this game.
Right now, at least, yeah.
You feel the same way, Jerry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right now, it's got to be Flacco. Let him get back and get healthy.
Yeah, agreed. I'd sit him for the other week and let Flacco have at it against his old team, and I think it's kind of like, is it almost like a nostalgic thing for you guys if he gets under there, like bring back memories of that Super Bowl? I mean, he's the guy that brought that championship that you guys craved so much.
Oh yeah, I love Joe Flacco, and a lot of the Ravens fan base does too. There's all the media clips that have been shared about him talking about Ray Lewis and talking a little bit about the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens fans love that, and I think it's definitely a little bit of a switch from what he was in Baltimore. I think he's becoming a lot more open now about just his time in the NFL and just who he is, which is really great to see. I think Joe Flacco is a really good person overall. But here, I know the word was like zombie-like, which I didn't completely agree with. That's what some people said about him and just what he was like in Baltimore. But yeah, I think a lot of people are honestly excited about the potential of playing Joe Flacco and just having that Lamar versus Flacco storyline. Obviously, Lamar Jackson ended up taking Joe Flacco's job in the middle of that year once he ended up getting hurt. And he had 2 good mentors there in Flacco and Robert Griffin III that really, I think, helped shape his younger years. And he's taken lessons from both of those guys. So yeah, I think that it definitely does bring back memories. I mean, that Super Bowl run was one of the best I've ever seen. He was unbelievable and brought the Ravens their second championship in a very short amount of time. So he definitely, he has a place in Baltimore history. And so whenever you talk about Joe Flacco, there are always memories that pop up.
He's definitely an easy guy to root for.
On the foot. Yeah, we
definitely
love
these guys root for.
He's like the dad of like the locker room, especially on a team that's so young. They're one of the younger teams in the league, and to have that veteran guy, especially for Wilson and even Mike White, the 3rd string quarterback there, they all kind of like look up to him as like a father figure. It's just a really cool guy to have around, especially when they went into last year without that guy. And Zach Wilson was there, struggled the first half of last year without having that veteran presence, and he played much better the second half after he came back from injury. And I don't think it was a coincidence that that's kind of when they traded for Flacco from Philadelphia to kind of bring in that veteran guy for the second half. But on the flip side of that for you, Kevin, what's the perception of Mosley in Baltimore at this point after being like a Pro Bowl guy and just kind of taking off for the money the way he did? Is it kind of like a salty type feeling, or still kind of appreciate what he did for the franchise while he was there?
I appreciate what he did for the franchise. I know a lot of fans feel like the deal was an overpay to begin with. and
No doubt.
didn't really feel like he was worth that, especially with his deficiencies in pass coverage, at least what he was in Baltimore. And I know he's missed a lot of time with the Jets, and I don't know what the mood is with New York, but I think a lot of Ravens fans look at that. They look at the Ravens getting a player like Patrick Queen, who's had a fair share of ups and downs in the league for sure. But I think when you're talking about how the Ravens have had to extend Ronnie Stanley and extend Marlon Humphrey, they're obviously looking down the pipeline with the Lamar Jackson extension. That contract probably would have hindered them from making a couple moves that have won them some games. So I think when you're talking about the value of an inside linebacker, it does vary from team to team. Just how do teams utilize? Do you need to have two guys on the field? I mean, the Ravens right now, they love utilizing Chuck Clark in that dime linebacker spot. They don't necessarily have to have a pure inside linebacker on the field every single play. So I know 5 for 85 definitely seemed like a bit much for Mosley when it happened. I know some fans wish they had shut out the money, but I think when you're talking today, I think a lot of fans probably say, hey, we're going to leave that contract in New York, and we're happy we didn't get that one. I think that's what the mood is for Ravens fans right now.
That's the mood of this fan base.
Facts.
I think we all knew from the get-go it was an overpay. And I think at that time, though, that was like the offseason when they signed Le'Veon Bell, overpaid for him at that stage in his career. It was just like the offseason of overpays under Mike McCagnon, who got fired, I don't know, 6 months after giving those deals out.
Trying to make a splash.
But yeah, they tried to make a splash the way they did it in 2015 when they overpaid Revis to come back and traded for Marshall, brought back Antonio Cromartie. They just dished out a ton of money and it worked that offseason, but it obviously didn't work this time around. And I think Mosley's like the one veteran. He's the captain of that defense. He's a leader. He's a gritty guy. Us as Jets fans watching him, he's lost a step since his time in Baltimore. But at this point, you kind of value him for the other things that he brings. Maybe not so much.
Leadership.
Like you said, he's never been great in the pass game, and he's definitely even taken a step back, I think, since his time in Baltimore. But he brings intangible things, and he brings, I think, a little bit of credibility to a team that doesn't have a lot of credible players at this point. But I would agree with you. I think everybody knew from the jump street that was going to be a bad contract, and it obviously. You kind of alluded to it though, the Lamar Jackson contract situation. That's kind of seems like it's the cloud hanging over us. Do you think that potentially gets done before Sunday? I know that's been like the deadline talked about for weeks now. Do you have any kind of gut feeling? I saw some reports out there that they have a new offer out there. Do you have a feeling one way or the other if that gets done?
Yeah, the deadline's coming up, definitely. I mean, at the time of this recording, we don't have anything at this point. I think talks will probably be tabled. I'm not counting anything out. There's obviously still time to get something done, but you don't want to rush this stuff, especially if there is still a gap. And I don't know if there is or not, if they're close or not, but Lamar Jackson obviously has a number that he feels he is worth and wants. The Ravens have a number they're willing to pay. And right now, I mean, that's contract negotiation, right?
Yeah.
You have a player that, in terms of like, I'll go back to Joe Flacco's time in Baltimore. You had him turn down an extension right during his rookie year, right at the last year of that contract. He goes out and wins the Super Bowl and makes himself tens of millions of dollars. I mean, you pay a Super Bowl winning quarterback. That was an immense win for Joe Flacco. I think with Lamar Jackson, what I think, and he's kind of said he's not doing this, but in the back of my mind, you look at a player that had a pretty rough second half of the year last year. I mean, he was in the MVP conversation throughout the first half. He had that like MVP memorable game against the Colts where he led that team back, was like 37 of 42 passing. But then the Miami game happened. The Dolphins just cover zero the whole game. He can't do anything about it. He goes down with the injury, misses the final games of the year. Right now, I think Lamar Jackson might be thinking, well, what if I can come back in 2022 and have a great year, play all 17 games, make the playoffs, maybe go to the AFC Championship or go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl. Even if he doesn't win it, that still takes his stock and just absolutely, it's going sky high, because it's like, what have you done for me now lately, league? And I think people remember what the latest was. And right now it's, oh, well, he missed the final 4 games and he got injured and he struggled. So I think that might be where he's at now. I know a lot of the conversation is about guaranteed money after what Deshaun Watson got from the Cleveland Browns. I think right now that's more of an outlier than what we've seen with guys like Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson after the fact. So fully guaranteed contracts, I don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to necessarily get that. I don't know if that's what he even wants. So that, there haven't been reports, at least to my knowledge, of that happening. But I think it is the smart thing if the season starts just to kind of table things, focus on football, and then revisit it. Both sides have expressed that they want to continue the partnership with each other, but they both have that number. And right now it's kind of who's going to budge, who's going to blink first. And right now it doesn't seem like either of them have.
Ravens should budge first. I really think so. I wouldn't take, if I'm Lamar, I don't take a dime under 231 at all. You got to do exactly. Look, I mean, you said it yourself, this is a very, show me now, show me lately kind of league. Look at what everybody else is doing around me. Look at Watson's deal. And what does Watson's accolades compare to Jackson? Jackson's an MVP. He's a perennial Pro Bowler at all times. Watson did nothing, and it kind of is like, he's getting this amount of money. Where's my money? Why wouldn't I'm not worth that. And I think him being his own agent kind of not soils that a little bit, but I feel like that kind of muddies the water a little because the agent usually shields a lot of that conversation from you. And now they're telling you this and saying, well, we think you're worth it, but not that worth it. Not, 250, not 300 million guaranteed money. So I think it muddies the waters a little bit, but I mean, if I'm him, I don't take anything less than what Watson got because I think he's earned it. I really do.
Yeah. I think the challenge with that though, is like Kevin kind of alluded to, the Browns acted out of desperation. That was
it's not his problem.
Wire contract. I agree, but I think there has to be somewhere in the middle where hey, this was just reckless, and then there's where we should be, and obviously he deserves to be paid handsomely and get what he deserves. But I don't know. I mean, I think everybody agrees that the Browns were pretty nuts for what they did. But something like the Kyler Murray contract, even I think we'd all probably agree that Lamar has shown more than Kyler Murray has up to this point, and he just got paid handsomely. So he's right, I think, to get what he wants. Like Kevin said, I don't really know what he wants, but I hope they get that done because I enjoy Lamar just from an outsider's perspective and watching him play. And I think he kind of embodies that city and he plays into that base. And they love him. Just another point on that, though, if they don't get this done, do you foresee that becoming a distraction and a talking point, just surrounding the team the entire year, especially if they are successful going to week 10, week 12? Oh, Lamar's having this great year, but he's going to hit free agent. Of course, they could tag him or whatever if they needed to. But do you just foresee it becoming a distraction if it doesn't get done?
I don't think it would become a distraction, but I do think there will be so much talking points surrounding it. I mean, we've been dealing with that here in Baltimore really for the past year or so. It feels like I'm kind of numb to it at this point because it's the conversation that is taking over Baltimore right now because he is such a transcendent player. He's someone who by himself wins them games. So people are saying, well, why aren't you paying him this money? Why are you risking the fact that maybe he'll get upset or this will happen or he'll leave? He was liking pictures of himself in a Miami jersey about a week ago, I think that was. So, I think some fans are definitely concerned about it. But I think to Lamar Jackson's credit, even though no deal has been done right now, every quarterback contract that gets done before his is a win for Lamar Jackson. I mean, the Deshaun Watson deal, for how, reckless that was a win for Lamar Jackson, regardless of whether it was, the outlier or not. Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, all those guys, every time that the price of the quarterback goes up, that means Lamar Jackson's price continues to go up. And I think if we see him, you mentioned it kind of if he starts playing well, what's the conversation going to be? I think if we see him play well in the first month, obviously the price is already skyrocketing at that point. And I still don't think they should negotiate till after the year. I just think that you have that hard cutoff date. It feels like it's going to be there. I would just table it regardless of what happens. Now, it's two situations for Lamar Jackson. Obviously, if you're him, you're risking injury. And if something happens, what is that going to do to your value? Any player can get injured in this league. I know some people say, well, his playing style, this, that, and the other. He's gotten injured in the running, not even running the football. He was running out of the pocket against Cleveland and got his ankle rolled up on really awkwardly. That wasn't him running the football. So the play style sustainability thing, I don't really buy that right now. But I think at the end of the day, he's a player that's going to get a ton of money, regardless of, if he has a down year this year or not. But I think he's trying to maximize his value, and I do not blame him one bit for that.
Again, we're being joined by Kevin Oestreicher here from the Locked On Ravens podcast. Kevin, as Jet fans here, we're just grasping. We're hoping there's a window, there's a door to kind of get a win and and eke this one out. Knowing the Ravens as well as you do, where do you think's kind of one area that they might be susceptible or weak going into this week 1 matchup that the Jets potentially could take advantage of and eke out a win?
Well, I think one area you're looking at, if you're looking at the roster, is the outside linebacker position. Now, I know the Jets, with the Mekhi Becton injury, that's an area where it kind of matches up in terms of weakness versus potential. You don't know what Dwayne Brown gives you right now. He hasn't stepped on the field yet for the Jets, but the Ravens have 2 healthy outside linebackers on the roster right now in an FAL way and Justin Houston. I assume they're going to call up Steven Means from the practice squad, kind of a veteran who's been around the league a little bit. But you don't want to run these guys into the ground, especially early on. If you have an FAOA play 95% of snaps, what's that going to do to him late in the fourth quarter? How is he going to hold up? Justin Houston, still a great pass rusher. He's had so many sacks. He's over 100 now. He's a player that has obviously proven his worth, but you want to manage those snaps. So what can the Ravens do with the remaining guys that they have? Are they going to be able to generate enough of a pass rush? Baltimore has had a lot of trouble over the past couple of seasons generating pressure when they do not blitz. So rushing 4, rushing 3, they haven't been able to get interior pressure. Also, that's been another area. And arguably, it's crazy because he hasn't even played a game yet, but arguably their best interior pass rusher in Travis Jones might not suit up in this one. So that's another area where I think if the Ravens can't generate pressure without blitzing, and obviously, again, this is a different scheme. Don Martindale was very live by the blitz, die by the blitz. We're doing no matter what, whether we win or lose the game. That's his style. Mike McDonald, I think, is going to go that far, but it's not going to be completely different. So I think Baltimore has to generate pressure. The Jets can hold up. They can support, whether it is Joe Flacco or Zach Wilson, we don't know yet. But if they can support the quarterback back there and make sure that the running backs have open running lanes, maybe it does turn into more of a shootout than people think it does.
Do you have any bold predictions here before we wrap up, or any maybe one surefire thing that you think you see? Lamar rushing yards or touchdowns, or any kind of final score predictions? We're into the prediction type thing here. Any gut feelings?
I'll think of a bold prediction as I'm saying my final score. I think it'll be Ravens 30, Jets 17. So I think it might be a closer box score game, but then you look at it and it's not really as close as 30-17. I think the Jets, look,
Sure.
you can't discount an NFL team, right? The Jets have not been uber successful over the past however many years it is. You can't deny that, but you also can't deny that they've made moves to get better. And they are continuously, I think, stacking some time. I mean, the receiver group right now, I'm very confident in there with Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and obviously Corey Davis. I have a couple Corey Davis stocks in fantasy, so who knows how that'll go. We'll see. So I think 30-17 will be the final score for me. And a bold prediction to me, Ravens wise, is I think Rashad Bateman will go over 120 receiving yards, but the Ravens run the ball more. So kind of almost like, the Ravens can only run the ball, but then, they're new number 1 wideout. Going up against likely what will be Sauce Gardner. I think that matchup's one to watch, but I think Bateman gets the better of him this time around. But Gardner's going to be such a good player. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think if Bateman does that, there's going to be a lot of upset Jet fans.
Uproar on Twitter. Twitter might explode.
Yeah, they're going to second guess the Sauce Gardner pick right out of the gate if that happens. But Kevin, where can everybody find you? Where can everybody kind of listen to the pod and check out some of the other things that you've got going on?
Yeah, so I am the host and producer of Locked On Ravens. We do 5 days a week of Day of the Ravens content. So we are anywhere you get your podcasts. So Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Also on video form on YouTube. So we're there as well. And then for Ravens Wire, right there 7 days a week. So if you want any Ravens updates, for this game, we'll do injuries, bowl predictions. I'll do a couple more than just one. And obviously final scores. We have it all over there.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking a few minutes, Kevin. Looking forward to, like I said, the matchup Sunday. Just all in all, just glad football's back and we have something to talk about rather than practice squads and who made the 53 and predicting who the third string tackles are going to be for our team. It's good to actually have game days to break down, and I appreciate you hopping on here to preview our week 1 matchup.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate you having me. And yeah, the preseason kind of gets a little old after one game. You're kind of like, all right, where's the football? Where's the regular football? But I'm glad it's back. We made it after what seems like forever. But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on.
You got it, Kevin. Well,
Thanks a lot, Kev.
You got it. Have a great night, Kevin. Thank you. All right, that was some awesome stuff from Kevin. Yeah, really good guy. Thanks again, Kevin, for taking the time to hop on. Can't thank you enough, but some really interesting stuff there. Couple takeaways that I thought in there. I don't get the feeling. I mean, Kevin's pretty connected to the Ravens. I mean, he's anything Ravens related. I'd go to that guy. He knows what's going on. Doesn't sound like, at least from his tone, that Dobbins is going to play in this game. So that could be a potential.
No.
I mean, might be out there, but I didn't really get the sense in kind of talking to him that was going to happen, which would be, I think, a good ploy for the Jets to not have him out there, especially this rebuilt defense, and if they could take advantage of not having somebody as explosive as him, because don't forget, like, you're going to have to contain Lamar. You already know Mark Andrews is going to eat the Jets alive. The Jets can never stop the tight end, and you're going to have CJ.
Never stop a tight end. The middle of the field. Yep.
What do you have? CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams in pass protection across the middle, or in defending the pass across the middle to these tight ends. He's gonna eat. Mark Andrews is gonna eat regardless of what happens. But I think it comes down to kind of containing Lamar, if that's the case. If Dobbins is gonna play there, I thought it was interesting that Kevin thought that Bateman was gonna go for like $120. And if that happened, if Sauce gets torched for $120 in his debut,
oh my God, Twitter will explode. Well, is he the number one? Would Sauce cover him, or would it be like the other side? Would it be Bryce Hall
or Reed? If Reed's questionable, I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, I don't know.
If he's going against Bryce Hall, then 6 catches, 7 catches, $120 and a touchdown is very possible.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I don't know. Like, I know Kevin was feeling like a 30-17 type thing, but it wouldn't be as close as maybe even the box score. I don't really know how to feel about this game, because I don't know what this Jets team is. Like, there's so many new players on this team. They've added a ton of talent, but is that talent ready to win now? I don't know. And that's why it makes this game, obviously, like, I don't feel great about the Jets' chances of winning this game. I'm excited for the season to start. I'm optimistic that I'm going to see some good things. But like, I'm sitting here right now on Tuesday night of game week. Like, I don't feel great about the Jets' chances of winning, but maybe they come out. Maybe Wilson plays and he goes for 300 and 3 touchdowns, and Breece Hall runs for 100, and Eli Moore has 100, and Jermaine Johnson has 2 sacks, and Sauce has a pick. Like, maybe that happens. I can't say it won't happen. But I don't know. I don't really have there's just so many new focal point players to this team. I don't know what to expect from them.
You're right. And it's like you get pulled in 1,000 different directions. And I think you said it right. You just don't know what to expect from this team. You don't know what this team is. I definitely think from what we've seen in this offseason, this preseason, they've taken a step in the right direction. Now, was that a big enough step? Because even look at, we're undefeated in the preseason. Our starters got blown out against the Eagles. Our starters were losing against the Giants. Our starters were losing against the Falcons. I think our depth and our quality of our depth players has risen astronomically. I mean, look at when around cutdown day. We were like pissy about the people we cut. Whereas years prior, it's like you can check, we got to cut 20 people. I've got 25 you could take off our team. I definitely think our depth and our 2s and 3s are drastically different than they used to be, which is a good sign, which makes me think we're going in the right direction. Now, does that mean it's going to translate to our 1s stepping up? I don't know. There's a lot of new pieces. Garrett Wilson's played 20 snaps. Elijah Moore, does he take that second step? Is Corey Davis, they said he's looking in great shape. Does he take, a step towards earning that contract, or does he look kind of non-committal as he did last year? The defense was Swiss cheese last year, but they've rebuilt it. Tons of different players. I don't know. It's like my heart wants to say, Jets, Jets, let's roll. We're going to crush it. But then you take a step, you're like, I don't know. But then you have the added energy of 9/11. I mean, either way, the one thing you can guarantee is MetLife is going to be rocking at 1:00. Yeah. And I think it's going to be packed. I think it's going to be a great crowd. I'm eager to get to see everybody because, again, it's been a long time without football. Everybody's raring to get back into it. I just think to Kevin's point, I tend to agree. We're going to give our predictions later on, but mine pretty much mimic exactly what he said. I think you're going to see the Jets have taken a drastic step forward, but it's just not enough. And the Ravens aren't an all-world AFC team either. So it's not like it's saying, hey, we're comparing ourselves against the Chiefs or the Bills or the Chargers, who are this is like the cream of the crop. Like this is like a middle of the road, above average AFC team, like fighting for a wild card spot. And I think we still lose by 10. So I think again, it'll be us taking a step in the right direction. I just don't know how large that leap is going to be. Period.
Yeah, and Kevin pointed out, I mean, all the guys that they could potentially be missing when it comes to Sunday, and you don't know what's going to be the deal with Jason Peters or Ronnie Stanley or J.K. Dobbins, and those are some really key pieces in some really key areas for those guys. So I mean, if you're telling me that, I don't know, they're rolling out with Kenyon Drake and I don't know Mike Davis as their running back core, and they have nobody aside from Rashad Bateman on the outside. Of course, Andrews, you can't forget about him. But, I mean, it's not like the craziest offense I've ever seen. It's containable, but I don't know what this defense is. Jets were 29th in the league. Jets were 29th in the league against the run last year. So pretty much everybody had their way against the Jets last year. They've obviously improved that front. And they've gotten better up there, and they've gotten better in the second level. I'd like to believe it in that defense. So I think they're going to have an emphasis on stopping the run. But I mean, when you're selling out to stop the run, you don't know what to expect, especially when you have a guy like Lamar out there. You don't know, like Lamar's such a wild card because he could beat you at his feet. And he could turn the corner and he's gone.
Exactly.
You just
But they've reworked that outside linebacker D end room. You know, you're going to have Lawson back, and then you got the speed with Jermaine Johnson. You got Clemens, who's looking like Thanos out there trying to eat people. Like, I think again, we're moving in the right direction. We've gotten those pieces in place to ascend. It's just like, is it going to be enough? Like Lamar Jackson, I don't care how you try to swing it, whether he's worthy of the contract, whether there's this, whether he hasn't won nothing. The dude is a freak of nature. Yeah. The dude is a tremendous athlete. And this is a test of how well a defense can contain that, at least his legs. I mean, his arm, you know, we're not really 100% sure on, but at least for his athleticism and getting outside the pocket, and, you know, all of a sudden you look and he's 40 yards upfield. But again, it goes back to the point where, like, the pieces are there. We just don't know enough about him. Like, look at Sauce. Sauce, you know, again, wasn't thrown at once in the preseason.
Yeah.
Once. Yeah. So now, again, this week, who knows, because it's Rashad Bateman. Okay. But then week 2, Amari Cooper. Okay, you know, we'll see what we got going on. Then you're going right into Jamar Chase. You know, then you're going right into, you know, the meat of like these
Deontay Johnson and
these studs. You know what I mean? So it's like, now there's your test, young gun. Let's see what you got. But it's like, we gonna know enough even after week 1 what we got? Will the box score tell the story of like, Jermaine Johnson, he's a bust, or holy shit, we got lucky? Breece Hall, they've got a really good defense. Or Breece Hall, they got a really good defense. Is he gonna have enough running lanes, or does he have enough chances to show like, ooh, this is why we traded up to get this guy? Like, are we gonna have more questions than answers after week 1?
I think that was interesting when we asked Kevin, where does he think that they're most susceptible to perhaps open the door for the Jets? And he mentioned that the organic pass rush is really been their weak point. And when they rush 3 or 4 without kind of just sending the blitz or whatever, that they haven't had a lot of success getting home to the quarterback. So whoever's under center, if they have time to throw, I think this is where the rebuilt offense kind of comes into play for the Jets. There's a ton of speed on that offense. If you got all day, your guy could beat their man. When you got Moore and Davis and Garrett Wilson could blow the roof off of the defense, and you got both guys could catch the ball out of the backfield. You got 3 different tight ends you could throw out there. So, I mean, if your quarterback's not running for his life and he has time to do some shit, it's a good sign. I mean, it's a good start. And I think whoever it is, particularly Flacco, because Flacco is not particularly mobile at this point. At least Wilson, if he's back there, he could kind of move the pocket a little and kind of do some things outside of the hash mark. So, I mean, if he's out there on the run, he could maybe, and I think, I mean, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I think both of us think, though, he's probably at his best when he is on the move and he's making those off-platform type of plays.
Yeah.
when he's not just stuck in the pocket, dropping
He
back.
doesn't have to think too. Just
Yeah.
go and react.
Just
and rely on
improvise.
your
Just-
athleticism.
Yeah, just improvise on what the defense is giving you. I think that's where Zach Wilson's proven to be his strongest. But if the Ravens aren't going to get home with a pass rush, it plays in the Jets' favor for sure. And I guess that's where we'll find out what this offense really looks like. And which is what any particular, I don't know, man. Like we're all just so excited for this season to start. But
yeah.
is there any like, I don't know, do you feel like really good about one particular thing like going into this? Like, I think this is going to happen, or this guy's going to have a big game, or I need to see something from this guy. You feel like anything particular heading into this?
I made a couple. I can go down a couple different routes. Of course, you want, if Wilson plays, you want him to play mistake-free football. Same thing with like Elijah Moore. You want to see, did he truly take this next step, and is he really the number one that everyone thinks, including me, thinks he is? And then again, same thing with the rookies. Are they going to make an impact? My overarching theme of what I really want to see and what I'm really eager to see is if they can get away from playing sloppy Jets football. You look at preseason game 1 and 2, we looked at it, and what was our take? They just didn't look hype. Obviously when, Streveler came in and did his thing, it was a different story, but like they just came out flat. They didn't look right, especially against the Falcons. They look like shit right out the gate.
Yeah.
I'm not calling out Brees Hall, I'm calling just in general. But I just want to see short tackling. I want to see like just, if you give up big chunk plays, like I understand, but like not stupid mistakes. Stay inside your lane. Don't give out the outside and have, somebody run up the sidelines. I just want to see like fundamentally sound football, period. It's just, I want to see like the fundamentals and the core and the foundation to build on. Like you're going to have splash plays on both sides, but get back to basics. No stupid picks. Like you can't have 15 penalties, 10 holding and dumb, Buster Screen and Kyle Wilson type, holding. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But like play smart, fundamentally sound football. And if you lose, you lose. But if, you win, great. But I want to see them take that type of leap in a direction, because that really shows that Salah's got that room on lock, period.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm going with this. I just want to see, I need to see a good start on both sides of the ball, particularly from like a coordinator's perspective. Like, I think both of them got off to shitty starts last year, particularly LaFleur. Like, the season started, Wilson looks lost, and we're just like, what's all this chatter about LaFleur? Like, he's supposed to be creative, and he's I felt like I was in like the Paul Hackett, like, draw play on 3rd and 7. Like, and then it felt like he was another coordinator once Wilson went out, and then when he came back, he like opened his creativity and opened his bag of tricks. And now he's going to be up in the booth, I think, permanently. That's his thing now. Booth LaFleur,
baby.
Booth LaFleur is what we all want. But I need him to get off to a hot start. I can't have this offense lack creativity, especially when you're loaded with all those weapons. I want to see some crazy shit, especially when you're going up. Baltimore's a great first test. But for me, both sides of the ball, defense, offense, you've had how long to game plan for this particular team? It's not like you're going on 7 days to pregame for the Browns. You've had 6 months to pregame for this game. You've known Lamar Jackson is going to be in this game. You've known potentially Dobbins is in this game. Bateman's there. All these guys on the defense. You know what you're going up against, and you've had 6 months to prepare for it. If you don't come out sharp and know how to exploit it, not saying it's going to work, but if you don't have a good plan in place, and if they run a flea flicker, they run an end around, or they run a bootleg or something, and Zach Wilson overthrows the wide open guy by 5 yards. Oh, well, it happens. They called up a good play. The play worked. They didn't execute it. I don't want to see 3rd and 8 and they're running a 2-yard out to Braxton Berrios and he runs out of bounds for a 3-yard gain on 3rd down and 8. Like, I'm tired of that shit. That's all you see. I just want to see a good game plan on both sides of the ball. Blitz and blitzing situations. Like, don't drop guys back into coverage. Like, if Sauce is your corner and he's your lockdown guy, leave him out there. Let him get burnt if that's your guy. He's got to learn. Like, put him out there on the island and let him do what he's going to do. And that's the only way you're going to find out about these guys. But I just want to see the game plan. I want to see an executed point of attack that they actually know what they're doing. And it just doesn't look like they're lost and like pulling shit out of their ass.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Be ready to come out, play with some intensity. Like you said, that place is going to be fucking rocking at 1 o'clock. That place is going to be rocking at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're so hungry for football. And the fan base is energized. We're energized. Football's back. The Jets, we hope, are going to be a much improved team. There's a lot of good, young, exciting youth and talent that's been injected into this roster. And this is our first glimpse at it. But 9/11 is also going to add to that, just like the emotions that are going to be in that building and everything that happened just a few miles across the river. 21 years now. Jeez, it's probably in eighth grade, I guess, when that happened.
It was 8th grade. I remember. I was in gym class.
Yeah, it feels forever ago, man. But here we are going on 21 years. So you know the emotions are going to be high in that building, and it's going to be rocking. And I just hope they come out and respond and kind of match the energy that the fans are putting out there.
I agree. And it's not like we're asking for the moon. You're not asking for, hey, Corey Davis, find your, Central Michigan self and go off for 2,000 yards receiving. Or, hey, Joe Flacco, go out and throw for 5 touchdowns, but, win a Super Bowl like you did how many years ago with the Ravens. Like, these are professional athletes. You're asking just to don't play stupid football. Play smart, sound, fundamental football. Do the little things. And everything else, your athleticism will take you where it is. Like, dude, like we talked about before, Lamar Jackson's a freak of nature. He's going to burn you for a couple plays. Okay. Guess what? He's done that to the entire league. That's why he was MVP how many years ago? That's the point. But can you learn from it? Can you see? And now if he burns you for 2 long runs in the first half, can you now go to the locker room at halftime and say, all right, we're going to change this. We're going to do this shit. Hey, listen, Jermaine Johnson, Clemens, you have no scheme.
Right.
8 is your guy. Just follow him everywhere he goes. Like, that's something that's always back at the Jets. They never had mid-game adjustments. I took advantage of it by always betting not against the Jets second half money line, but that's a different story. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they always seem to lack that in-game adjustment. I would love to see, like you said, if they've got you on lock and if it's third and anything longer than 5 and they know they're going to press you, dude, take a shot. Like, see what you can do and like just 4 9s and see what happens.
Yeah.
Make mistakes. Who cares? You're the Jets. You're not, you're already going to be exceeding expectations if the game's close. So do what you got to do. Take some shots, play sound on both sides of the ball, and no stupid mistakes, and see what happens.
Yeah. Kind of like I said to Kevin. I mean, I think we're the only people that think, not us in general, you and I, but the fan base, the Jets fan base, we're the only people who think that we even have a shot to it. Like, to the rest of the nation, like, this is Baltimore coming in and like steamrolling the Jets, same old Jets. Jets are a terrible football team. Jets, you know what the narrative is. Like, it's a really good team coming in to face a shit team that has been shit for a really long time now. And
this is your cupcake survivor pool game, is what it is.
That's a great fucking way to put it, Spiga. This is your survivor pool. You pick the Ravens week 1 against the Jets. But
shock the world, baby.
I think this is a great way to show that you're not the same old Jets anymore. If you're a team ready to take that next step and your quarterback is, injury aside, ready to take that next step and he's in there and showcase that arm strength. Let him take some chances and stop being so vanilla with it. But it's going to be interesting. What are you feeling? Like, what's obviously I don't think either of us feel great about it, but what, like, any kind of score predictions or just kind of the final result? What do we lean in?
I kind of laughed when Kevin mentioned it in our interview because I kind of had the same sentiment. As much as I know this game is going to be rocking, I know it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great time. I still think it's a Jet loss. I'd love for him to win. I just don't see it yet. I haven't seen enough I don't have that big of a litmus test to say, you know what? I've watched Zach Wilson the last couple of weeks, or I've watched, Elijah Moore light it up, and this is why. I can only go off of what I know. So I think they're taking the step in the right direction. I think that this game was last year. This is easily a 34-10 27-9 runaway game. I think it's closer. I see this being a 27-17 game. I think, bold hot take. I think, we'll have some productive stars on this team. We'll get to in a minute on what I mean by that. But I think it'll be clear that they've taken that next step. It's going to be clear that they look better than they did last year. But it just won't be enough because this year is still part of that rebuilding phase. They're not there yet, but they're getting there. And I think a 27-17 final shows that, there were some mistakes, some holes, some glaring things you got to fix and weaknesses for next week, but they're not the same old Jets. That's it.
Yeah, I'm somewhere like I don't know. I haven't really thought much about like a final score, but I don't know. They're probably somewhere that in that range. I don't know. I could see like a 34-13 or 34-17, like I don't know, 17-point loss, 14-point loss. Like I think they're going to lose by more than 2 scores, whether it's 10, 14, whatever. But like you said, even if that's the case, like I hope it's just not vindicative of like the effort and seeing some things. Like maybe they have a couple sustained drives that stall out in the red zone, or they miss a field goal and turn it over, or something like that, where they just leave points on the board, or they don't convert. I'm hoping it more turns out that way than just like they got their doors blown off. They scored a touchdown because it was 34-7 and they put their backups in for the last drive, and Flacco or Wilson, I don't know, eked out a screen to Berrios to make it like 34-10 or some shit like that. I don't know. Like, again, I think this Jets team is much improved. I think they're going to be better. I'm hoping that they come out there and they prove that they are. But like, I don't know how anybody could consciously sit here, even as a diehard Jet fans like we are, and say, "Oh, like fuck yeah, they're going to go in there and blow the doors off the rate." Like, I don't think you could consciously sit here and expect that to happen, or even think that there is a high percentage that does happen. But if I walk in there on Sunday and by halftime the Jets are up like 21-3 or something like that, then I'm like, oh shit, maybe this is for real. Like, but I have no idea. Literally, I've said this multiple times. I have no idea if this team is good or not. I have no idea. And I don't think we're going to know for a little while. But we're going to get a good idea on Sunday.
We'll see. It'll be a great test on Sunday, man.
Yeah. What I know you said what the fuck are you talking about? You have some big
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask you the same question, out of what we know and what we don't know. But obviously we're optimistic Jet fans.
Unfortunately.
Whether it's bold, whether it's lofty, whether it's something you could like, I could see that shit happening. I'll go to you. I'll defer to you first. What type of, let's call it just a bold prediction, do you see for Sunday? Whether it's Sauce gets 5 picks and 2 or pick sixes, or if it's just like, hey, he doesn't give up a touchdown. Like, just what? Give me something that you foresee happening in the game.
I don't know. I have a couple. I think Clemens is going to have a big game, and I think he's going to have a big game if the Jets are going to win. And they're going to have to be up Lamar's ass all day, and he's going to come in situational pass rush, and I think he's going to be a problem. So I feel good about Clemens coming in there and having a hell of a debut. He's been one of the guys that's been talked about all preseason. One of the guys, I think I picked him when we had the draft thing as like our steal of the draft, and he's only proving that he might be that guy. Everybody loves him after absolutely demolishing Tyrod Taylor in that preseason game. Everybody knows who he is now. Just a bad man. And I don't know. I think he comes out fired up and has a crazy game. Maybe gets a sack, bunch of pressures. But he's going to leave a mark on this game. I feel pretty good about that. I don't know. And I guess I don't know why. It's just like, there's no reason why I should feel like this is going to happen, but I think mark it down. Leader in receiving yards for the Jets on Sunday, Tyler Conklin.
I thought about that.
I just feel like
one of my takes was going to be that he gets over 100 yards receiving.
I wouldn't like bat an eyelash at that. I don't think that's crazy. I don't know if he's going to go for 100, but like I think you could have anywhere from like, I don't know,
And-
70 to
And
100.
I don't know if this is just like Jets biasy or because we see it every day or because we watch practice. Conklin's the number one receiving tight end. We know that, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah. There's no question.
CJ Uzama is a
Clear two.
primarily blocking tight end who is athletic enough to pick his spots and break out for some big plays.
Yeah.
But Conklin was stealing targets and stealing yards and stealing touchdowns away from Irv Smith and everybody in the Vikings.
Yeah.
Conklin's guys are number one receiving tight end. I agree with you. I think he's gonna have a big game. I think this season he exceeds expectations.
Yeah.
One thing that I was thinking about on my end, same thing, kind of going down the same road, is I think the Jets have a 100-yard receiver and a 100-yard rusher this game. Whatever it means, however, I think it's like, let's say Brees Hall goes for 110 and a touchdown, and then Elijah Moore starts off hot. I think he's gonna have 9 catches, and I think he's gonna go for $120. Might not get a touchdown, but I think he's gonna eclipse the 100-yard mark.
You got to believe, though, if that happens, that the Jets are in a much better position than I think they are.
And
if they have a 100-yard rusher and a 100-yard receiver and the tight end's going for 80, the Jets should probably be winning in that game at some point.
Which is why I think it's a close 27-17 ball game. I think the Ravens pull away late. I think they lean on Lamar's athleticism, and he does what he does. But if we want to talk about bold takes, probably not the best quarterback to go against this. I think the Jets out-sack the Ravens. I think the Jets tally more sacks, bold. Whether it's Quinnen, whether it's Lawson, whether it's Clemens, Jermaine Johnson, Franco Myers, whoever. I think collectively, the Jets tally more sacks on Lamar Jackson than the Ravens front, whatever does, against the whoever's playing quarterback for the Jets.
That would certainly be a nice
That's
change.
for my bold one. But I think it's possible.
The Jets have been
though.
Oh, it's certainly possible.
We'll see.
But again, you can't say anything's impossible because you just don't know what this team is. We haven't seen we haven't seen Carl Lawson. Half those guys that you just named expecting sacks from, we haven't seen them play a game yet. We haven't seen Carl Lawson. No. We haven't seen Jermaine
live
Johnson.
Action.
We haven't seen Clemens. We haven't seen any of these guys.
We haven't seen Carl Lawson in green and white yet.
Right. So is it crazy? Probably, but if it happened, would you be like, holy shit, the Jets had 6 sacks. I never saw that Sunday
coming. Yeah,
it wouldn't shock me if you told me that it happened. It just, I don't know. You just always especially as a Jets fan, I don't know, reserve judgment until you see it.
Yeah,
I don't know. Is Zach Wilson going to be a franchise quarterback? I hope so, but I don't know. He's got to show me that he is. I don't know. I've seen too many blunders, too many princes that were promised not ever make it not ever make it to the throne. So yeah, I'm gonna say the Jets are obviously gonna fall on Sunday. Score I'm not really positive on, but I do think they're gonna lose by probably at least 2 scores.
We'll see. Either way, we're gonna have a fucking hell of a time out in MetLife, man. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, it's only Spiga and I tonight. Obviously, PJ's traveling. Dennis and Nick aren't able to make it on tonight. But I think this is actually going to be the first time we're all expected to be in the same place at the same time since the pod launched at MetLife on Sunday. So stay tuned to the socials. We'll have some epic videos and pictures from the tailgate on Sunday. But yeah, now with Spiga living in Florida and PJ living in California full time. And then obviously I live a good distance away from Nick and Dennis, almost an hour at this point. So the likelihood of even we can't even get 2 or 3 of us on a podcast at the same time. Never mind getting us in the same room at the same location at the same time. So I'm looking forward to just catching up with the whole podcast crew as a whole. Yeah, and hopefully, like I said, we'll have a little bit of content to send your way. But yeah, stadium's going to be rocking, and we're looking forward to getting after it. But Special thank you again before we wrap up to Kevin for hopping on with us tonight from the Locked On Ravens pod. Make sure I know you're here for the Jets content, but make sure you show that guy some love and send him a follow. He's locked in on the Ravens, man. That guy knows anything you would ever need to know about that franchise. So
Yeah, man.
Really grateful for him to come on as our first guest on the pod. But his title, the first guest on the pod, is only going to be that because we're expecting another pretty substantial guest coming on here. I guess if you're listening to this, it's Wednesday now of game week, but we're hoping for Friday. We're going to record tomorrow, but we've been talking about it. We've been building it. We're going to have Coach Mike Westhoff on the pod next episode that you'll probably get to hear this coming Friday, leading into the weekend of game week. But really privileged, really honored to have somebody of his stature and credibility come on just a small little pod that we're hoping evolves into something a lot bigger. But obviously we're gonna talk a little bit about his new book, Figure It Out. That's been out for about a month or two now, and just kind of share a few insights and stories from his illustrious coaching career. He's probably the best special teams coach in the history of football.
Yeah.
The most revered, if nothing else, but obviously part of some really good, the glory years of our lifetime of Jets football. Those late Parcells teams, the Herm Edwards teams, those Mangini teams, and the Rex Ryan years. I mean, we were almost playoffs every other year, perennial playoff contenders at least, and it's been some lean years. Really, since Mike left, we haven't made the playoffs since, but he was around for all those glory years. So we're gonna have some good stories to kind of tap into, and hopefully he can share some good insight on not only the past but what he likes about this team, if anything. And so we'll have that for you guys coming here next episode. So a lot of good things on tap. Thank you for listening. Signing off, Spiga. I'm Kardos. Thank you for listening to episode 11. And like I said, look out, next episode coming at you Friday with Coach Mike Westhoff. See you later.